Hello, we're looking at Gal Friday, and this session will be about texting and the three formats that I have for message or templates. Looking at the main screen, just go into an account, Mastar, one of and the only account, and we're going to look at setting up Sally and Tim. The binoculars, I'm going to click on Sally, and Sally is set up as a raw formatted message. None is just a standard message, a block, you fill in the data. Raw is a stuffed format to the message field, and a formatted message is structured. And so I'll show you what I mean. Looking into her two fields that she has in here, okay, car type and a street, and it could be more complicated. In addition to the to that raw is that we can clear and we can set that client with that template. Up on the top, I only have one template, and there could be multiple templates. And let's say if I do a show all and click ahead, various templates, and not much happening there, but I want to stay with this one, and I'm going to stuff that or set that template to Sally. And step back to the account, and this time we're going to go into Tim. The difference on Tim's setup is the format. And clicking on the blue button shows us the format. And so setting up the format would be simple as adding fields in here, and city. And it would be a tilde character as the third field that we will text out. And let me save that. Well, first of all, or next, let me show you that there's a message box that we could send out. And in this case, I'm not going to send out the message box. And we could have a question, and that's editable, and we could send that question box out. And I'm going to keep it simple and not include those in the format text out, and just set this template. In order to be able to email and text, we need to have a phone number, generally a smartphone like. We have to have your carrier you pay to, and that sets up an email address with your phone number. And this is not anything new. This is on the internet, and through this link and this link is some more information regarding this. This is how we set up a text, and so the email address here would be entered. And that's all we need to do, unless we wanted to group people who receive one, the other persons also receive the same. Stepping back to the account, just start doing some of this stuff. I'm going to go out and take a message to Sally first. And I'm going to enter in Dawn. And I'm not going to enter in phone numbers and all that extra stuff. And clicking off of that, I've got already some data in there. And I could just answer that question with a Chevy. And that would be a message that I could essentially text out, because there are only 19 characters used of 220 possible characters. We really want to send 160. Anything over that would be a second page, and so there's some flags that show that. So this would be simply click on this and send that email out, or text email out. Okay, that's done. You may hear my phone ring. Oh, you heard that little beep, I hope. That was the email or the text that I just got. Let's go back into that account again. Go to Tim. we've set him up. He looks a little bit different. He's got the little tilde with the 1 on it. He's also stated it's a format type message. Also note up here the green color coordination. And I'm going to enter in a message to Don again. I'm not going to do a phone number, but I'm going to click into the message field, and that pops me up into this pop-up. And so this is what this is about. The process of creating a template allows us to create the titles or the questions that need to be answered by the operator. Also allows me to enter in unlimited text. Okay, allows me to put in the Chevy, the street, and the city. Now, because these little fields are not used, they're not included in what we would text out. What is text out is only the characters Chevy, X, and Y, not the questions. And so I'm counting characters, and there's flags if we go over 160 characters, and this changes. And so now I would just click on Done, and I've already set up my process. I've got a little information in here. I've got a yo-ho-ho for whatever on that list was actually toggled on. Yes, no, question, answer. So that got filled in. And so what would be text out is only 1, 2, 3 in that order. Your client on a text message would only receive Chevy, X, and Y, and that was my phone reminding me again that I had a message that I didn't. And so in order to text that out, I would just click that again. In a second, you'll hear that. Okay, so that was pretty simple. Is there anything that I missed? Well, here's the messages that I just sent out. You can always go to those. It's still active. If I happen to set up this client to be a delivery mode, and this just, for instance, go back into adjust this client. If I set that client up as a text out, I could essentially by default change this to be that when I text it out, deliver the message to old. Or I could set it up to when I text it out, send it to the to-do list, working messages on the main screen. I'll show you where that's at. This is the one I'm interested in here. And when I do a control 1, instead of clicking on text, when I text that out, if I just did a control 1, looking up here at scripts, a control 1 would be a finish message and deliver the message to old. And so what would happen is, if and stepping through a control 2 right here will send this message to old also. So I'm looking at the message and I do a control 2. Now I'll go back into that count. That message would have gone to old, and there's that message to Don, the last message. And I got 80 messages in old, okay, and only 2 messages in active. And if I sent that message to the to-do list, it would be sitting in this screen right here. So taking a moment just for fun, go out there and take a message to Sally. I might want to stuff something in, so I'm transferring calls, and they're transferring the calls in, or hang up and things like that. I could essentially click on that and stuff that in the from field, and I could essentially click on one of these and stuff into the, and so I can keep updating the message. And this one I'm going to put on hold with a method for an emergency operator to take care of this situation. And now it's on hold for the emergency operator, whatever I want to change these nomenclatures to be. And if I go into any line, I could actually go back to that message pretty easy. And I could update that message again. And I can go back here. And so for, say, a tow truck or a taxi or some kind of delivery system, I essentially monitoring my to do or still active messages until I deliver them to old, or click this, and now that is cleared, but the message would still be an old message, or rather an active message out there until I actually deliver it to old. This delivered that message to old, and the first time you would have to say who you are. There's another quick key for doing that, but this is the manual way. And then I delivered that one to old. I could also deliver the next one to old without, and I could just keep delivering it to old, but that's not a deliverable message. The alarms are stayed active. So back to the main menu, just so you can look at where all the messages are. Actually, all of them are old because we deliver all except for this one scheduled message. You can't see all the way down at the bottom. But let me see if I can drag that up and scroll this down. And so this would be that only message out there, which is a scheduled alarm messages. And I hope that I can answer any questions for anybody. Have a great day. Okay, this last little portion is just a little add-on about limits of sending out texting. What I'm going to do here is go back to Sally, set her up, and down here at the bottom I'm going to use one of these fill-ins and just stuff it. And as I'm doing that, notice that I'm incrementing and I've got left. And I call this raw, and I'm counting everything. So if I put one character in this field, I've incremented this by 1. What I want to do is exceed the limits, and I'm using this as a way of stuffing limits. Okay, and I'm going to set this up that I'm using about 280 characters, which was way out of the line. And if I happen to email, that's not a problem. But if I do text it, there is a problem with limits. And so of the 220 characters available, I can accept 160 characters of this or quit and go back and edit. Okay, or just know that I'm going to send out the Don, the extension, that one I put in there, car type, street, all the titles, nomenclatures, all the way out to where 160 characters ends right here. Or I could say, well, I'm going to allow this to be a second page to the client. And so I'm going to use more. And so now I'm going to send out from WillCal that extra amount of area, which from 160 to 200 characters, that's the maximum length. And then I would email that, and I'm going to abort. That's one example. Let's step out of here. Now let's go to Tim. Tim's a little bit more complicated. From Don. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff the from field. Because if I go to this message field, you saw what I did. I go to the pop-up. So I'm going to stuff the from field as I increment my data and what's still available. So I can do the same by going up to the point where now it's showing that I've over-limited as a first hint, but it also allows me to go into the same program and I can stuff some more data, okay? And so type in a bunch of characters, this is going to increment even more, okay? And then I could be done with it, but I'm still limited to the number of characters I've got stuffed up here. And by that fault of texting that, I get the same message. But what I'm really sending out is the 1, 2, 3 information, data only here, but I'm still stuck with all that information in the field of the from field. And so that's kind of how I'm flagging that. And that's the end of that little example I wanted to show you about limits and how I'm dealing with flags and what kind of messages you got from that.